All right, let's just dive straight into this. Today, we are unpacking something that is, well, it's honestly mind-blowing. We're looking at one of the most famous ancient texts in existence. But scratch the usual history or theology angle. Instead, we're going to examine it as a jaw-dropping feat of engineering and artisan craftsmanship. We are talking about the construction of the very first portable sanctuary, built right in the middle of a harsh desert. The instructions for it are so incredibly detailed, they tell this amazing story of ancient metallurgy, textile weaving, and structural design.
I mean, think about modern construction for a second. If you want to build a house today, you need an architect, engineers, material suppliers, and a huge team of builders. So how on earth do you engineer a heavily ornamented, fully portable sanctuary out in a desolate wasteland? When you actually read our source material, Exodus chapter 26, it doesn't read like poetry. It reads exactly like an ancient, high-stakes assembly manual. It's a masterclass in modular design, thousands of years before we ever even thought of flat-pack furniture. And it relied entirely on a collective of highly skilled artisans bringing their unique trades together.
Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty dimensions, we gotta calibrate our brains a bit. To truly grasp the monumental scale of what these artisans were building, you need to understand their main measuring tool. The text constantly references a unit called a cubit. So what is a cubit? It's an ancient unit of measurement based on the length of a human arm, from your elbow right to the tip of your middle finger. That's roughly 18 inches or about 45 centimeters. Keep that number in the back of your head for this explainer, because when we translate these ancient numbers into modern feet, the sheer size of these structures is going to absolutely blow you away. Okay, here's our roadmap for this project. 1. The ultimate ancient blueprint. 2. Weaving the sacred textiles. 3. Engineering the golden framework. And 4. Designing the holy spaces. Let's get to it. Section 1. The ultimate ancient blueprint. When I call this text a blueprint, I am definitely not exaggerating. This isn't just a vague description of a tent. It is a highly technical, rigorous set of step-by-step instructions. Just look at the sheer density of the technical specs here. It dictates the exact number of curtains, the precise dimensions of every single one, how they couple together, and even the exact count of hardware loops and clasps needed. The artisans weren't just winging it. They were executing a strict, modular architectural plan designed to ensure that the whole tabernacle, as the text states, may be a single whole. Every single piece had to align perfectly. Moving on to Section 2. Weaving the sacred textiles. Which brings us to the materials themselves. The engineering of the sanctuary really rode on the unbelievable skill of ancient textile artisans. They had to create something that was breathtakingly beautiful, sure, but also rugged enough to withstand the elements. So it wasn't just a simple camping tent. It was a highly engineered, multi-layered defensive structure. We can break down 4 distinct layers. You've got the delicate, beautiful, fine-twined linen on the inside. Over that, a tougher layer of 11 goat's hair curtains to form the main tent, each a massive 30 by 4 cubits. But wait, that still wasn't enough for weatherproofing. Over the goat's hair went a covering of tanned ram skins, dyed bright red. And to top the whole shebang off, a top layer of rugged goat skins to protect everything from the harsh desert sun and sand. Let's zoom back in on that innermost layer for a second, because it is an absolute masterpiece of ancient weaving. The blueprint calls for 10 curtains made of fine twined linen using vibrant blue, purple, and scarlet yarns. Now, in the ancient world, those were highly prized, incredibly expensive dyes. And remember our cubit math? Each of these 10 curtains was 28 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. To put that into perspective, that means each individual panel was over 40 feet long and 6 feet wide. The sheer amount of coordinated manual labor required to spin, dye, and hand weave these gigantic panels is just staggering. And get this, they didn't just weave solid blocks of color. The text demands some serious next-level artistry. It explicitly says, "You shall make them with cherubim skillfully worked into them," meaning the weavers had to integrate these complex, intricate figures of winged creatures directly into the fabric as they worked. Think about the mathematical precision required on the loom for that. When those towering 40-foot curtains were finally hung, those figures had to align perfectly. Of course, once you've woven thousands of square feet of heavy tapestry, you hit a new engineering snag. How do you connect them? The blueprint solved this with specialized hardware. 5 curtains were coupled to one another, and the other 5 coupled to one another, using 50 loops of blue yarn on the edges. And to lock them all together into one massive monolithic canopy, the artisans cast 50 clasps of solid gold.
For the outer goat's hair tent, they cast 50 clasps of bronze. This ensured the structural integrity of the canopy, making it entirely modular for traveling, yet totally secure when assembled. All right, Section 3, engineering the golden framework. So you have these heavy textiles. You can't just drape them over nothing, right? The ancient woodworkers and metallurgists had to build a skeleton strong enough to carry all that immense weight, but modular enough to be taken apart and moved. Their solution was a series of towering upright frames. The material they used was acacia wood, which is known for being incredibly dense and durable, and each frame was to be overlaid entirely in gold. Let's do the math again. 10 cubits long, that means every single one of these solid wood, gold-plated frames was 15 feet tall. And to ensure they didn't just tip over, the blueprint required 2 tenons, basically heavy-duty wooden pegs, at the bottom of each frame to lock securely into their bases. And this breakdown brilliantly illustrates the sheer logistical load of the framework. You had 20 of these immense 15-foot frames on the south side, 20 on the north side, and 8 on the rear, which included 2 specially designed corner frames. But they couldn't just stick these things in the dirt. Each frame required 2 heavy bases made of solid silver. That's 40 silver bases for the south, 40 for the north, and 16 for the rear. Those silver bases acted as a super heavy foundation to anchor the towering golden walls against the desert winds. But, even with heavy silver bases, a wall made of separate 15-foot panels can still buckle. Looking at our source document again, we see a genius engineering fix: locking bars. The artisans crafted 5 bars of gold-overlaid acacia wood for each side. And the text specifically says that the middle bar had to run halfway up the frames, from end to end. They cast golden rings on the frames to slide these bars through, effectively locking dozens of independent vertical panels into one solid, rigid architectural unit. Honestly, it's a brilliant, fail-proof system.
Which brings us to Section 4, designing the holy spaces. So, the golden walls are up, the multi-layered roof is secured. Now we step inside. The interior wasn't just one giant empty room. It was carefully zoned using more of that incredible artisan textile work. The most critical interior architectural feature was the dividing veil. Just like the inner curtains, it was woven from fine twined linen with blue, purple, and scarlet yarns, featuring those complex, skillfully worked cherubim. But the installation of this veil was very specific. It hung on 4 pillars of acacia wood overlaid with gold, used hooks of solid gold, and was anchored into 4 solid silver bases. This veil was a hard, physical boundary within the sanctuary, engineered to command absolute reverence. And that boundary basically created 2 highly distinct spatial layouts. The veil separated the structure into the holy place and the most holy place. Even the placement of the furniture was exact. Inside the veil, in the most holy place, sat the Ark of the Testimony with the mercy seat. Outside the veil, in the holy place, the artisans were instructed to place the table on the north side and the lampstand on the south side. The architecture literally dictated the flow and the function of the space. Finally, guarding the very front of the tent was the entrance screen. This was also made of those precious colored yarns and fine twined linen. However, our source notes a slight variation in the crafting here. It was embroidered with needlework. This screen was hung on 5 gold-overlaid acacia pillars. But check out this subtle engineering shift. Instead of the silver bases used deep inside the sanctuary, these 5 pillars at the entrance were cast with bases of bronze. When you step back and look at the whole picture, the tens of thousands of square feet of hand-woven, heavily dyed textiles, perfectly joined 15-foot gold-plated frames, hundreds of heavy silver and bronze bases, it is absolutely staggering. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What modern projects command this level of meticulous collective craftsmanship today? We rely so much on machines and mass production now, but this blueprint reminds us of the incredible heights of human ingenuity, skill, and the timeless drive to pool our talents together to build something truly extraordinary. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the incredible world around us.